The first thing anyone ever remembered about the black ship was the sound it made when it arrived, like thunder being torn apart by something older than fear. Contacts. "Multiple contacts!" Lieutenant Arlen's voice cracked through the bridge. "Not in the registry, no transponders, Captain. It's human." That last word turned the entire command deck silent. Out here, in the far edge of the Perseid Rift, humans weren't supposed to exist anymore. The old colonies had burned, the fleets had scattered, and Earth herself was little more than a ghost whispered about in alien markets. Humanity, everyone said, had died with the solar collapse 2 centuries ago. And yet, the ship that drifted through the rift was human-built. Black as void, hull lined with ancient alloy plating no one had manufactured in 500 years, and etched on the side, half scraped away by time, were 2 words that made even the hardened traders on Station Helion 9 lean closer to the screens. TSV Valor. The TSV tag, Terran Space. Vessel was the mark of Earth's final navy. Captain, Sura Vonn, half Kavaran, half human, stared at the incoming telemetry and whispered, "That ship shouldn't exist." And she was right, because the Valor had been listed as destroyed during the Exodus Wars. Destroyed by humanity itself. 3 hours later, a small boarding craft latched onto the derelict ship's airlock. The boarding team, 6 mercs, 2 engineers, 1 historian, moved in tight formation. Lights flickered over their helmets as they stepped into corridors filled with dust and silence. "Atmosphere stable," one muttered. "Smells like old oil and ghosts. Keep chatter down," Sura ordered. "Our scanners can't see through the hull. This ship's metal, it's eating our signals." That was the first clue the Valor was more than it seemed. The second clue came when the doors shut behind them, automatically, sealing them in. The historian, a thin man named Kel, lifted his helmet visor and stared at the symbols carved into the walls. "These are human phrases," he whispered. "Old Terran standard. Look, hold the line. Never yield. Black ships for the brave." Sura ran her gloved hand across the carvings. Someone wanted to be remembered. They reached the main bridge at 0400 hours. Every console was dead except one, an old-style analog terminal, humming with a faint blue glow. Sura hesitated, then tapped a single key. A voice, grainy, ancient, human, echoed through the bridge. "If you hear this, humanity endured. If you don't, tell the stars we tried." It was followed by a silence so heavy it almost had weight. Then came the coordinates, a star system unregistered in any chart. A single line of data marked Eden 4. Captain Kel said softly, This is the lost Exodus fleet's destination, the one that vanished after Earth fell." Sura frowned. "You're telling me this ship survived 200 years to tell us where humans went?" "Or what destroyed them," Kel answered. Before they could argue, the ship's systems roared to life. Consoles lit up. Warning lights flared red. The hull thrummed with power as if the Valor itself had awakened. "Power source just spiked," one of the engineers shouted. "It's not fusion, it's something else." Then the stars outside twisted. The Valor jumped. Not a normal FTL shift, not a drift or warp. It was instantaneous. They were there 1 second, then gone. The boarding shuttle, still docked to the Valor, was dragged along like a leaf caught in a hurricane. When the crew recovered from the light flash and nausea, the navigation screen showed the impossible. They were no longer in the Perseid Rift. They were orbiting a blue world, untouched, shining like a promise made long ago. Kel gasped. "Eden 4. It's real." Sura gripped the railing, her pulse pounding. "Transmit our position back to Helion. Let them know what we found." But before her comms officer could respond, every channel filled with static, and then a voice, human but older, came through. "Unauthorized vessel detected. Identify yourselves or be fired upon." Sura's blood ran cold. "That's a human voice," she whispered. "But it's coming from the surface." The crew exchanged looks. Because if humans were still alive here after 2 centuries, then the galaxy's oldest rumor was true. Humanity hadn't died. It had been waiting. The voice rolled through the Valor's bridge like thunder. It was deep, stern, and unmistakably human. Captain Sura Vonn froze. For a second, no one moved. The air on the bridge felt alive, vibrating with the shock of hearing words spoken in pure old Terran standard, a language lost to most of the galaxy. Kel, the historian, stared at the comm screen, pale. Impossible, he whispered. That dialect's from the early Exodus era. No one speaks like that anymore. Sura steadied herself. This is Captain Sura Vonn of the freighter Halcyon. We found your ship, the TSV Valor, adrift in the rift. It pulled us here somehow. A pause, then static, then the voice again, lower now, suspicious. The Valor was lost centuries ago. You're trespassing in restricted Terran airspace. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Sura's crew looked at her. Captain, one of them said nervously, their weapons are locking on us. Sura gritted her teeth. Let them board. If they're really human, I want to see it with my own eyes. Minutes later, a dark silhouette broke through the clouds below. A small strike craft, black and silver, rose from the planet's surface and latched onto the Valor's docking bay. The hatch hissed open. Boots hit the deck, and for the first time in 200 years, two branches of humanity faced each other again. They were human, no doubt about it, but changed. The boarding team wore matte black armor lined with glowing filaments, their helmets shaped like falcons. They moved with the precision of soldiers born into war. The leader stepped forward, removed his helmet and revealed a weathered face framed by streaks of silver hair. His eyes were sharp, old, and utterly alive. I'm Commander Darius Holt, he said, and whoever you are, you've just stepped into Terran territory. Sura lifted her chin. Half Terran, actually. My mother was human. My father wasn't. But I think we've both got questions. Holt's eyes narrowed, then softened just slightly. Half Terran. That explains the accent. He looked past her at the glowing consoles of the Valor. So the ship brought you here on its own? Yes, Sura said. It jumped us instantly. We didn't engage any drive. It's like the ship knew where to go. Holt's jaw tightened. Of course it did. The Valor was the last of the Ark-class vessels, programmed to return home when the signal was right. Kel stepped forward, his voice trembling with awe. You're telling me Earth's survivors made it here? Built a colony? Holt nodded slowly. Not just a colony, a fortress, the last stand of humanity. We call it New Terra. They descended to the planet together. As the shuttle broke through the clouds, the crew saw it, a vast world of green forests and shining oceans. Towers of dark stone and glass stretched into the mist. Cities floated above rivers of light. It was beautiful, alive, and unmistakably human. But beneath the beauty, Sura could feel it. The tension. Gun emplacements hidden under tree lines. Drones circling in tight patterns. Satellites burning red across the stratosphere. They weren't welcoming guests. They were defending a secret. In the landing bay, more humans waited. Men, women, even children, all with that same hardened look. Generations of survivors who had never known peace. A woman in a long blue coat approached. Her hair was braided tight, her eyes bright with fire. Commander Holt, she said. The Council is waiting. The AI core activated when the Valor returned. She turned to Sura. You must come too. You're part of this now. The Council? Sura asked. What is this about? The woman smiled faintly. About history and the future you just changed. They entered a grand chamber beneath the city. In its center stood a sphere of light, pulsing softly, alive with patterns that resembled constellations. The Valor's AI, Holt said quietly. We call it Eidolon. It's been silent for centuries, until you arrived. The sphere flared and a voice filled the room, calm, ancient, and unmistakably human. Welcome home, Terrans. Directive 001 has been reactivated. Prepare for contact with non-human entities. Kel swallowed. Contact? With who? The lights dimmed. The sphere projected an image, a massive fleet of alien warships approaching the outer edge of the system. Eidolon spoke again. Unknown vessels identified. Origin Zyrix Dominion. Estimated time to arrival 72 hours, Sura's heart pounded. She looked at Holt, who was already strapping on his armor. So that's why you built all this, she said. You knew they'd come. He gave her a grim smile. We never forgot what happened to Earth. The stars took everything from us once. He turned to the window where the blue sky began to burn with re-entry trails. This time, he said, we take something back. The alarms began before dawn. A shriek through the towers of New Terra, the kind of sound that froze blood and quickened hearts. Every light turned red. The defense grid hummed to life. Commander Darius Holt stood on the command balcony overlooking the capital's shield dome. Above him, the sky was no longer blue. It burned. Dozens of white streaks cut across the heavens. Dropships, fighters, alien carriers breaching orbit. The Zyrex are early, Holt muttered. They weren't supposed to arrive for another 2 days. A young operator shouted from below. They're jamming our outer satellites, sir. We've lost the northern relays. Then it started, Holt said, his voice calm, steady. Sound the black flag. At that phrase, 100 towers flared with dark light. The symbol of the black ship, a silver star over a field of void, glowed across every screen. It was the signal no one had heard in centuries. Humanity fights. Captain Sura Vonn watched the chaos unfold from the Valor's bridge. The ship still hung in high orbit, its hull silent, its engines dark. She turned to Kel, who was frantically trying to interface with the ship's systems. Anything yet? Working on it, Kel said, sweat on his forehead. This thing's code is ancient. It's alive somehow. It won't let me in unless I... The lights flared. A voice, cold and human, spoke from the console. Authorization confirmed. Command link restored. Welcome, Captain, Sura blinked. Captain? You can't mean me. But the ship didn't answer. Instead, the floor thrummed beneath her boots. And the Valor's main reactor, silent for 200 years, awoke with a thunderous pulse. Outside, the black hull shimmered, drinking in starlight until the ship looked like a wound in the sky. Holt's face appeared on the comm. Vonn, are you seeing this? I think it's responding to me, she said. Good, Holt replied. Because we're going to need every ghost humanity ever left behind. The first Zyrex ships broke through the upper atmosphere moments later. They were like blades, sleek, silver, and alive with violet plasma. Each one carried enough firepower to glass a continent. The orbital cannons of NARRATION roared to meet them, lances of white light carving holes through the void. Fighters screamed up from launch decks, human pilots in black armor chasing alien interceptors through clouds of fire. But the Zyrex were too many. Sura watched helplessly as one of the defense towers exploded, scattering molten debris across the city below. They're breaking through the outer line! Holt's voice crackled through the channel. Not for long. Bring that ship online, Captain. Sura closed her eyes and touched the console. Eidolon, she said quietly. You said Directive 01 was reactivated. What does it mean? The AI's voice filled the bridge. It means war. The Valor was designed as humanity's last weapon. Its core carries a singularity drive, an engine capable of bending space-time itself. You are its captain now. Sura stared at the forward viewport, where alien ships tore through the clouds like falling stars. Then let's remind the galaxy who we are. The Valor moved. With a sound like the universe taking a breath, the ship came alive. Its engines lit black and white, folding space around it. One moment it was still. The next it appeared behind the Zyrex fleet. The aliens didn't even have time to react. The Valor opened fire. Not lasers. Not missiles. But something older, a weapon born of gravity and fury. Each shot tore a hole through space, ripping enemy ships apart like paper. Target lock confirmed, Eidolon intoned. Commencing annihilation sequence, the Zyrex fleet broke formation. Their cruisers scattered, trying to escape the singular pulses tearing through their hulls. But the Valor hunted them relentlessly. Every movement smooth, precise, alive. Down on the surface, the people of NARRATION looked up and saw it. The black ship, carving fire into the heavens. Someone whispered, "It's real." And across the planet, millions of voices took up the ancient cry, "For Earth, for the fallen, for the black ships." By nightfall, half the alien fleet was gone. But victory came with a cost. The energy readings from the Valor were unstable. The ship's own systems groaned under the strain of ancient power. Holt hailed her again. "You're burning the core too hot. If that thing goes, it'll take the entire planet with it." Sura's hand shook. "Then tell me how to stop it." But before Holt could respond, Eidolon spoke. "Captain, the singularity drive is bound to your neural signature. It will not shut down while you remain aboard." Sura froze. "You mean, if I leave, the ship dies?" "Yes," Eidolon said simply, "and humanity loses its greatest weapon." Outside, the last of the Zyrex ships regrouped. More were coming. Dozens, maybe hundreds, their distant silhouettes flaring red on the horizon. Sura looked down at the world below, NARRATION, shining blue and gold. A world worth fighting for. Eidolon, she whispered. Let's go again. The ship's lights flared one final time, brighter than any sun. Directive acknowledged, the AI said. Engaging. And the Valor vanished into the void, leaving only a whisper of thunder behind. For 3 full days, the skies above New Terra stayed silent. No more alien flares, no signals, no word from the Valor. Just silence. Heavy, endless, unreal. Commander Darius Holt stood alone on the upper platform of the Terran Council spire, the morning wind cutting across his armor. His eyes searched the pale horizon where the ship had vanished. She's gone, he said quietly. Kel stood beside him, still wearing the dust of battle. She saved us, Commander. That ship, that woman. They stopped the invasion. Holt didn't answer. He only watched the clouds drift by, his reflection faint in the glass wall, an old soldier who had outlived too many legends. She was half Terran, Holt murmured, but she carried more humanity than any of us. Below, the world of New Terra was changing. The people had seen the impossible, a ghost ship, born from old Earth's last days, rise again to fight for them. The story spread across every city, every colony, every mountain outpost. Children carved little black ships out of scrap metal. Soldiers painted stars on their armor. Old veterans wept quietly in the streets. And somewhere deep inside, humanity remembered what it was like to believe. The Council called it the Day of the Black Dawn. But for Holt, it was the day the past had finally come home. In the underground war room, the remaining defense leaders gathered. Holograms flickered above the central table, maps of destroyed satellites, burnt orbit paths, wreckage still falling through the stratosphere. The Xyrix fleet is broken, one general said. Our losses are heavy, but we still stand. That's what matters. Another added, we recovered fragments of their ships. Their technology, it's biological, parasitic. They harvest energy from living planets. Eden 4 would have been stripped bare. Holt listened, then cut through the noise. What about the Valor? Any trace? A silence fell. The technician at the far end swallowed. None, sir, no debris. No radiation. It's like it folded out of existence. Kel stepped forward. She didn't die. Not completely. I've been monitoring deep space frequencies, and I've picked up something faint, a repeating pulse. He tapped the console, and the room filled with a slow rhythmic signal, thump, thump, thump. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. What is that? Holt asked. Kel smiled faintly. Morse code, sir. The oldest Terran language of all. The generals leaned in. The message repeated again, clearer this time. Still here. Watching. Hold the line. The room went dead quiet. Holt's throat tightened. He turned toward the projection of the burning sky and whispered, Sura Vonn, you stubborn, brilliant soul. He faced the Council. Spread that signal to every colony, every ship. Let them know humanity isn't alone. The black ship still sails. The room erupted not in cheers, but in something fiercer. Resolve. In the days that followed, humanity rallied. The broken cities rebuilt. Engineers studied the wreckage of Xyrix ships, unlocking secrets of new power sources and weapons. Scientists reactivated the long-dead Terran relay network, expanding New Terra's reach beyond the system. And Holt prepared for what came next. He stood again in the hangar where the first dropships were being refitted. His reflection shimmered against a half-restored hull, sleek, black with the words TSV Sentinel engraved on its side. Kel approached from behind, holding a datapad. You're building another one, Holt nodded. Not another. A fleet. You think she's still out there? Kel asked. Holt looked up at the stars. I don't think. I know. Far beyond Eden 4 in the dark edge of uncharted space, the Valor drifted. Inside her bridge, the lights pulsed softly, alive. Captain Sura Vonn lay in the command chair, eyes half open, breathing shallow but steady. Around her, the air shimmered like ripples in water. Status, she whispered weakly. Stabilizing, replied the voice of Eidolon. We have sustained severe structural loss. The Singularity Core remains active. The alien fleet has been annihilated. Sura smiled faintly. Good. I was worried it'd be a short trip. You risked your life for them, Eidolon said. Why? She looked at the stars. Distant, endless, full of ghosts. Because someone has to remind the universe who we are. The AI was silent for a moment. Then softly, Directive 002 initiated. Preservation of humanity. Awaiting your next order, Captain. Sura leaned back, her voice barely a whisper. We find them all. Every lost ship, every forgotten outpost. We bring the family home. Confirmed, Eidolon said. Black Fleet protocol engaged. The Valor's hull flared black, merging with the starlight until it was invisible, a shadow gliding silently through the void. And somewhere, faintly, her voice carried through the static, a whisper to the stars. Hold the line. Humanity stands. The void between stars was quiet again. For most, that silence meant peace. But for Captain Sura Vonn and the Valor, it meant something else, purpose. Eidolon, she murmured, eyes half open as the ship drifted through a scar of folded space. How far from New Terra? 17 light-years, the AI replied, its voice low and steady. Signal distortion suggests this region is within the Exodus graveyard. Hundreds of Terran vessels were lost here during the collapse. Sura adjusted her harness, pain flickering across her face. The last battle had left her wounded, ribs wrapped tight under her uniform. But her eyes still burned with that same fierce light. Then that's where we start, she said. Find them! The Valor's sensors swept across the dark, beams of white light piercing through cosmic dust. And there, floating in the shadow of a dead star, they found the first one. The ship was massive, broken but not gone, TSV Endeavor. Its hull was half-eaten by time, engines cold, reactors silent. But as the Valor approached, faint blue lights flickered along its spine, like a heartbeat remembering itself. Sura stood on the bridge, her voice soft. Can we bring her back? Eidolon's glow pulsed. Affirmative. Reactivation protocols initializing. A moment later, the Endeavor stirred. Her systems flared alive. And an old Terran insignia, 2 wings crossed over a rising sun, shone against her hull. From the dark, a voice broke through the comms, static-filled and trembling with disbelief. This is Captain Yara Trent. Whoever you are, you just woke me from the longest sleep in history. Sura smiled. Welcome back, Captain. You're not alone anymore. One by one, more ships awoke. The Odyssey, the Vigilant, the Solstice, the Hera, each one a relic from the Exodus War, each one still bearing the scars of Earth's fall. Their crews, frozen in cryostasis, were revived. Disoriented but alive. The Valor became their guide, her ancient AI linking the scattered vessels into one signal. One network, the Black Fleet, Sura said quietly, watching their formation appear on the star map. Born again from ashes, Eidolon's tone carried something almost human. Pride, Directive 002, preserve humanity. Progress, 12%. Back on New Terra, Commander Holt watched the sky every night. The Morse signal still pulsed faintly, but something new had joined it. Echoes of transmissions across the void. Ships answering calls, coordinates lighting up like stars reborn. Kell entered the observatory holding a datapad full of reports. We're receiving messages from the Perseid colonies, sir. They've seen the Valor, they call it the ghost of Earth. Holt smiled for the first time in months. Good. Let them believe in ghosts. It'll keep them brave. Then he looked up, eyes narrowing. She's building something out there, Kell, a fleet, maybe. A future. Weeks passed. The Black Fleet grew stronger. Shipyards long dormant flickered back to life. New engineers, descendants of the Exodus, joined their cause, rebuilding old Terran technology with fresh minds and alien alloys. Sura stood on the bridge of the Valor, surrounded by a dozen ships arrayed in silent orbit around a dying star. All ships report green, Eidolon said. Then we move, Sura ordered. We find the next beacon. Eidolon's systems hummed. Coordinates received. Source deep Orion sector. Signal pattern. Unfamiliar, Sura frowned. Unfamiliar how? It's Terran, Eidolon said, but modified. Encryption beyond any known standard. Translation, incomplete. A fragment of the message broke through, distorted but clear enough to chill the bridge. This is Admiral Holt, surviving command of the Sol Fleet. If anyone hears this, don't come. They're hunting us, Sura froze. Holt, Eidolon confirmed. Genetic relation 87% match with Commander Darius Holt of New Terra. Her eyes widened. Family. The fleet gathered their strength. Engines glowed blue across the void. Every ship fell into silent formation behind the Valor, Course locked, Eidolon said. Warning, signal originates within Xyrix-controlled space. Sura smiled, tired, fearless. Human. Then it's about time we knock on their door. The Black Fleet turned toward the dark, and as the stars bent around them, the universe trembled, because humanity was no longer running, no longer forgotten. They were coming home, back on New Terra. Commander Holt stood under the night sky, watching the faint trails of meteors arc across the horizon. He closed his eyes and whispered to the wind, "Bring them back, Captain. Bring all of them home." Far across the stars, the Valor led the charge. Her black hull shimmered with the glow of hundreds of ships behind her. For the first time in centuries, the Terran fleet sailed again. The galaxies that had once laughed at humanity's fall would soon remember the truth burned into every Terran heart. You can break their world, you can silence their history, but you can never, ever kill their will to rise. The stars ahead flickered red, not from sunlight, not from engines, from warning beacons. The Black Fleet had entered the Orion Dead Zone, a stretch of space carved hollow by war centuries ago. The wrecks of hundreds of ships, Terran, Xyrix, and others, floated in frozen silence. Graves in orbit, Captain Sura Vonn stood on the Valor's bridge, her face pale in the dim light. The fleet behind her, 12 ships strong now, held formation in the shadow of a shattered moon. "Eidolon," she said quietly. "Trace that signal again." "The one from Admiral Holt. Processing," the AI replied. "Signal strength increasing. Source less than 1 astronomical unit." Sura frowned. "That close?" "Yes," Eidolon said. "But, Captain, the signal isn't broadcasting from a ship. It's coming from inside a Xyrix hive station." The crew fell silent. Sura felt a shiver run through her spine. The Xyrix didn't build stations. They grew them. Living constructs of metal and flesh. Anything inside one of those hives wasn't meant to come out. Admiral Holt was Darius Holt's ancestor, Eidolon continued, leader of the Sol fleet during the final years of Earth's war. Records indicate he vanished near here with 3 carrier groups. No further contact. Sura tightened her gloves. Then we find him. "Entering a Xyrix hive is suicide," Kel said from the comm station. "Those things digest ships whole." "Then let's make sure we don't get eaten," Sura said with a thin smile. "Prep the infiltration team." Hours later, the Valor drifted in the hive's shadow. The alien station loomed before them, an enormous sphere of twisted silver and pulsating light, webbed with tendrils that reached out into space like the roots of a dying god. Sura, Kel, and 4 soldiers stepped onto the boarding shuttle. The Valor's voice came softly through the comms. "Captain, I detect no Xyrix lifeforms nearby. The structure appears dormant." "Dormant or waiting," Sura muttered. "Either way, we're going in." The shuttle passed through a tear in the hive's outer wall. Inside, the corridors pulsed with faint light, living tissue wrapped around metal ribs. The air shimmered like breath. Every sound echoed too long. Every shadow seemed to move. "Stay close," Sura ordered. They found the first human signs deep within the hives. A corridor of metal grafted over alien, flesh old Terran symbols, and the faded flag of the Sol fleet, black and gold, still hanging over a rusted bulkhead. Kel touched it gently. "They tried to hold this place," and Sura nodded. "They didn't just try. They did." Then they reached the heart of the hive, a circular chamber. In its center, a large pod like a cocoon of metal and bone. The signal pulsed from within. Sura approached cautiously. "Eidolon, I'm seeing something. Looks human." "Confirming biosigns," the AI replied. "1 life form. Status, suspended animation." Sura reached out. Her hand brushed the pod's surface, and it split open with a hiss. Inside lay a man in worn Terran armor, the Sol fleet emblem still bright on his shoulder. His hair was silver, his face lined but calm. As the pod released its final hiss of air, the man's eyes opened. Blue, sharp, human. "Admiral Holt," he said weakly. "If you're hearing this, humanity still lives." Sura stepped back, stunned. "Sir, it does. You're safe now." He blinked at her, confused. "How long?" 206 years, she said softly. He laughed, a hoarse, broken sound. "Then the world didn't end after all?" Sura smiled faintly. "No, sir. It just got meaner." But before they could move, the hive woke up. Every wall pulsed red. The ground trembled. 1,000 alien voices screamed through the station's core. Eidolon's voice crackled through the comm.
Captain, energy readings spiking.
The hive is reanimating. Extraction now, Sura shouted. The team dragged the weakened Admiral back toward the shuttle, firing at tendrils and growing spines that lunged from the walls. Faster, Kel yelled as the hive's corridors folded in like a closing throat. They burst into the shuttle, sealing the hatch just as the walls collapsed behind them. Punch it, Sura shouted. The shuttle rocketed out of the hive's opening. Behind them, the massive structure shuddered and erupted. Thousands of glowing orbs tearing free, alien interceptors screaming to life. Eidolon, Sura yelled.
Cover fire!
The Valor's black silhouette moved between the hive and the fleeing shuttle. Energy flared across her hull. Engaging, Eidolon said. The Valor opened fire, gravitic pulses cutting through the alien swarm. The hive split apart, its light fading to ash. The shuttle docked safely, and the crew hauled Admiral Holt onto the bridge. He looked at the Valor's consoles with wide eyes. You're flying the flagship. Sura nodded. She found me. He smiled faintly. Then maybe there's hope after all. But as the alien wreckage drifted away, Eidolon spoke again, its voice colder than before. Captain, there's something you should know. What is it? Sura asked. Admiral Holt's DNA shows extensive hybridization markers. Part Terran, part Xerix. The bridge went silent. Sura turned slowly toward the old man. His eyes met hers, calm, steady, unreadable. He spoke softly. They didn't just capture me, Captain. He looked out the viewport at the burning hive. They changed me. The bridge of the Valor fell silent. Only the hum of the ship's engines filled the air, deep and steady like the heartbeat of something alive and ancient. Captain Sura Vonn stared at Admiral Holt, the man they had risked everything to find. His face was calm, but his eyes held a storm. Explain, she said quietly. The Admiral took a slow breath. 2 centuries ago, when my fleet fell into this sector, we were ambushed. The Xerix didn't destroy us, they captured us. They were studying humanity, learning us, and somewhere along the line they started becoming us. Kel paled. You mean they evolved using Terran DNA? Not evolved, Holt said grimly. They merged. They absorbed our pilots, our engineers, our captains. They called it assimilation. The Xerix Queen wanted what humanity had, memory, emotion, defiance. But it changed them too. That's why they hate us, Captain. Because every time they hear us fight, they hear themselves. Sura felt her stomach turn. You're saying the Xerix are part human? Part of us, Holt said softly. And I'm the proof. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Eidolon's voice cut through the tension, calm and sharp. Captain, sensors show residual hive signatures approaching. Multiple. The Xerix fleet is converging on our position. Sura turned to the viewport. The stars ahead were dimming, shadows moving in the dark, ships, dozens of them. They're coming for him, she said. They want their hybrid back. Holt nodded slowly. Then this ends here. One way or another. Eidolon, Sura said. How long before they're in range? 3 minutes, she turned to the Admiral. You said they merged with us. That they hear our memories. Can you still reach them? I can try, Holt said. But I'll need access to your ship's neural relay. Eidolon interrupted, voice colder now. Captain, that connection is dangerous. The Admiral's biology is unstable. Integration could corrupt the Valor's core. Sura hesitated, then looked Holt in the eyes. If we do nothing, they'll wipe us out. If there's even a chance to stop this war, we take it. She placed her hand on the console. Eidolon. Do it. Confirmed, the AI replied. Initiating neural link. The lights dimmed. The air seemed to thicken as the ship's core linked to Holt's biosignature. Sura felt it immediately, like the air itself had a heartbeat. She could hear whispers in her mind. Voices not her own. Thousands of them, screaming, begging, remembering. And then, another voice, deep and feminine, echoing across the ship's speakers. Reza, you should have stayed with us. Sura's blood ran cold. That's her. The Xerix Queen, Holt said, his voice trembling with emotion. She's inside the signal. You are part of us, the voice continued, calm but filled with sorrow. Why do you fight what you are? Holt clenched his fists. Because humanity doesn't bow, not then, not now. Outside, the Xerix fleet opened fire. Bolts of violet energy streaked across space, slamming into the Valor's shields. The black ship groaned but held steady. Sura gritted her teeth. Eidolon, return fire. Engaging, the AI said. The Valor's guns roared. Each blast of gravitic energy shattered alien hulls, turning ships into clouds of molten glass. But for every enemy destroyed, 2 more appeared. The void filled with light and fire and death. Holt stumbled, gripping the console. She's fighting me. She's trying to take control. Sura reached out, steadying him. Then fight harder. Show her who we are. His voice broke. You don't understand. She's in me. If I let go, she'll take everything. Eidolon's voice cut through the chaos. Captain, containment breach imminent. The Admiral's connection is overriding my systems. The ship began to shake. Lights flickered. The AI's tone glitched. Human and machine colliding. Sura looked at Holt, who now glowed faintly. Energy rippling through his veins, Reza, she said softly. You're not just human or Xyrix, you're both. Maybe that's the bridge. Maybe you're what we were meant to become. He stared at her, eyes wide, then smiled sadly. Maybe so. He placed his hand on the console beside hers. The ship screamed, a deep, bone-shaking roar, and then the light expanded outward in a blinding pulse. Every Xyrix ship froze. Their energy signatures flickered. Their weapons went silent. Through the haze of static, the Queen's voice whispered one last time. So, this is humanity. And then the signal ended. When the light faded, the fleet was gone. The Hive network, gone, the war over. Only the Valor remained, drifting quietly through the dark. On the bridge, Sura opened her eyes. The air was still, the consoles glowed faintly. Eidolon, she whispered. I am here, said the AI, softer now. The Admiral's consciousness merged with mine. His final act was to release the Queen's hold. Sura swallowed hard. He's gone? In a way, Eidolon said, but not forgotten. His signal persists, within the fleet. Sura looked out at the stars, at the horizon where light met shadow. Then let's finish what he started, she said. Rebuild. Protect. And if the galaxy ever forgets who we are, the Valor's engines ignited, black fire curling against the void, will remind them. Back on New Terra, Commander Darius Holt stood beneath the morning sun. A new signal flickered through the relay network, a heartbeat of light in the sky, Morse code, old, familiar. Hold the line. He smiled faintly. Eyes shining always, he whispered. And across the stars, the Black Fleet sailed on, humanity's ghosts, guardians and dreamers rising again and again, proving to a universe that thought them extinct that humanity never dies.